After 2 years, Elden Ring's DLC Shadow of the Erdtree is finally out. With the success of Elden Ring, which won many of the Game of the Year awards, fans have been waiting patiently for the expansion for FromSoftware's magnum opus. Given that the devs have a track record of excellent expansions to their games, do you think this one lives up to the hype? Shadow of the Erdtree takes place in a completely new area called the Shadow Realm and has its own contained storyline in which you talk to the followers of Miquella and unravel the mysteries of this new realm. To get to this new area, you must have beaten both Starscourge, Radahn, as well as the then optional boss fight, Mog, Lord of Blood, which a huge percentage of players haven't beaten. Talk about gatekeeping the DLC. Once beating Mog, you will gain access to the DLC by interacting with a giant cocoon found in the boss room. From here, you are able to explore the vast world of the Shadow Realm. Much like Elden Ring, the game does not tell you anything about the world around you. It's up to the player to piece together the story threads by talking to the different NPCs found in the new area, as well as reading all the different item descriptions found in the game. This expansion does have an easier story to understand compared to the base game, as you will find quite a few NPCs that will explain certain events to you after you defeat the bosses around the map. You also don't have to worry about getting lost as you explore the Shadow Realm, as the game does give you a sort of progression guide on where to go next by giving the player these glowing crosses scattered around the land to look for. These serve as markers for you to find where the next major dungeon is and guide you to the important places of the Shadow Realm. The best way to describe the DLC is that it's just more of what made Elden Ring great. And given how well made and excellent the base already is, the DLC also does not disappoint in this regard. Shadow of the Erdtree retains all the gameplay found in the base game of Elden Ring, and it'll take us quite a bit to explain all the things found in the base game, so instead we will focus on what the DLC adds to enhance the experience. You are able to bring all the things you've acquired during your playthrough of the base game into the DLC, but don't expect this expansion to be a breeze even though you've equipped yourself with your best gear, as the DLC has a separate progression system called Shadow Realm Blessing and only applies when you are exploring the Shadow Realm. To upgrade the blessing, you will need to find scatter tree fragments that are found at key points throughout the map. You will definitely need all these upgrades if you want to defeat the many new bosses featured in this DLC. This expansion features quite possibly the most difficult bosses FromSoftware has introduced in their games. The variety of the bosses here was plentiful, and not gonna lie, all of them took us quite a few tries to beat. Special mention to Black Gel Knight for giving us a taste of what to expect in the DLC. Much like the rest of FromSoft's bosses, these bosses require you to learn their movesets, and knowing when to strike would be the quickest way to overcome these bosses. Even the normal enemies found around the world pose quite a challenge for those unaware. There are quite a large number of different enemy types that fill up the map to make exploring interesting and at the same time rewarding. These range from large imposing knights to very swift bird-looking people. All pose quite a challenge to players who are unaware or unfamiliar with these new enemy types. Obviously, we died quite a few times during fighting these mobs. There are even these cute looking worm people that are found in certain places on the map. I mean, just look at them, they're kinda cute, aren't they? With all these new enemies and bosses to fight, the game does also give you new tools and weapons to add to your arsenal. From new spells to new weapons, the game adds a lot to shake up your build and playstyle. They also add a few new weapon types not found in the main game. These range from backhanded blades to beast claws, which makes a return from Bloodborne. Please, please, please port Bloodborne to PC, please. A big standout for us are the fist weapons, which make you finally act out your martial arts fantasies, and the light great sword, which is a great balance between the straight sword and the normal great swords. The expansion even introduces a dedicated throwing weapons category, which includes throwing knives and perfume bottles. These throwables do not consume any resources and instead, just like every weapon, relies on your stamina management. This allows players to come up with more unique builds, as the newly added weapon types opens up a lot of build opportunity. We stuck with a combination of the newly added backhanded blade as well as the throwing knives for our DLC build, and it synergizes quite well with our fast-moving character. With all these added to the game, this expansion feels like a sequel rather than a DLC. The Shadow Realm looks just as majestic and awe-inspiring as the lands between of the base game. Each parts of the vast map has a lot of different areas to explore and mysteries to find. The areas of the map also feel very different and distinct, and we can't help but be left in awe at the grand vista seen before us. The environment even changes depending on where you are in the Shadow Realms. There were a few times we didn't realize that we were in a new area until red lightning started to fall from the sky, which honestly makes exploring more fun and rewarding. From the vast grasslands of the Graveside Plains, as well as the beautiful sea of blue flowers of the Cerulean coast, the DLC gives you quite a lot to feast your eyes on. There's even... no, not another poison swamp! Miyazaki just really loves poison swamps, huh? Unlike the base game though, the DLC focuses more on quality over quantity. You will find that there are a lot more of the dungeons and castles that you would typically see in more of the linear Souls games, rather than the many caves and small crypts you would find scattered around the base game of Elden Ring. The bosses also have a lot of attention put into them, which makes sense as FromSoft are already masters of designing menacing and imposing bosses. The different designs of each major boss makes them stand out even among the already diverse set of main game bosses. The music accompanying these fights are also as majestic and powerful as visuals that is paired along with them. FromSoftware again delivers some of the best orchestral boss music in the industry today, and it really shows that they have perfected the formula of what makes their games great. Just take a listen to this boss's music and tell us that you don't feel pumped just fighting this enemy. The main game already had great sound effects as well as music, and Shadow of the Erdtree delivers more of what made the Souls games famous. The only complaint we have is that there are quite a few optimization problems in quite a few areas of the Shadow Realm. We noticed some significant frame drops in some of the heavy populated areas of the game, which is good as it is easily fixable with a few patches. All this being said, Shadow of the Erdtree might just be FromSoftware's best DLC to date, as well as one of the greatest game expansions in gaming today. It definitely lives up to the hype it got, and the 2-year-long wait was worth it. Shadow of the Erdtree greatly builds upon what was already established in the base game by adding more weapon types, more bosses, and just more Elden Ring. We here at Game8 are giving Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree a 9.4 out of 10. The DLC feels like an entire new game on its own with the amount of content stuffed into this expansion, and is another great mark to add to FromSoftware's list of excellent DLCs. But how about you guys? How are you finding the DLC so far? Let us know in the comments below. This has been Game8 signing off.